And what's missing too often in the Republican Party, but also just across the country, is people want to see that you're willing to fight for them. It's very easy to do the right thing when the wind's at your back. The question is, when the media's after you, the left, when they're taking shots at you, are you going to be willing to dig in and do what's right, even in the face of opposition? Because if you're not willing to do it then the leadership and all the stuff we need is not there. A fighter is there when it's difficult. A fighter may be your lone voice on issues that matter to you, and we saw that here in the state of Florida when we had to deal with COVID. The amount of, and look, I'm fine, I'm a big boy, but the amount of grief that we took during COVID, and you go back now and look at it, and it's almost laughable because they were wrong and we were right, but not a lot of people thought that at the time. But we had to make a decision. Are you going to follow the crowd, or are you going to look at the data in front of you, realize what the people in Washington are selling us, wasn't doing the job, and chart your own course? And every time we charted our own course, we faced blowback. We faced a lot of opposition, and not just media, not just left, bureaucrats, and even some Republicans. But we dug in. We said in Florida, every single Floridian has a right to work and operate their businesses, and we're not going to let local governments stop that. We're not going to let the federal government stop that. We also said, when it wasn't popular, every single child in this state has a right to go to school and learn in person. Teacher unions didn't like that. The media didn't like that. The teachers union sued me summer of 2020, and they wanted to get the schools closed. We forced to be open. And then we stood up, first state of anybody in the country, to say nobody in the state of Florida, whether you work for the state of Florida, whether you work for a local agency, or whether you work for a private corporation, nobody should be forced to choose between a job they need and a shot they do not want. So we had to make a very simple decision in the face of that opposition. How are we going to do? How are we going to stand? How are we going to choose here in the state of Florida? And I'm proud to say that we chose freedom over Fauciism, and this state is better off as a result of doing that. We've also had to dig in and fight for people when it comes to what's going on in our schools, and that means standing up and fight for the rights of parents to direct the education and upbringing of their kids, to ensure that we fight against toxic ideologies like critical race theory and get that out of our K-12 schools, which we did. It also means we stand up, and look, you saw Mace come out, 5 years old. We got a 6-year-old and 3-year-old daughters at home. So my wife and I are very sensitive to what's going on, not just in schools, but in society with respect to raising kids. We just believe that you should be able to have your kids go to school, watch cartoons, just be kids without having some agenda shoved down their throat. Leave our kids alone. And that means we had to take a stand very clearly about our schools and say, it is wrong to be telling a kid in 2nd grade that they can change genders or that they were born in the wrong body. And when we stood up for that, media didn't like it, the left didn't like it, and we even had the most powerful corporation in Florida, modern history, Disney, did not like it. Now, I think a lot of Republicans around the country, and certainly the ones that are running for president against me, they either did take the side of Disney or certainly would have caved to Disney under those circumstances. I will stand up for our kids. I don't care what the opposition is. This is about the well-being of our children. If we can't fight for that, then what good are we? So we fought Disney, and we won the fight. And we got the gender ideology out of our schools for good. We also leaned in with our universities. We're the first state in America to eliminate so-called DEI from our public universities. You know, they say that it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's really just an ideological agenda. DEI, as it's practiced, better stands for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination, and that has no place in our public universities. So we fought the fight on that, and we fought for people. And here's why it's important, because the left is never going to be satisfied until they control every institution in this society. So if you have these Republicans that say, you know, we should just cut taxes and not worry about the schools or what's going on in corporate America or all that other stuff, I can tell you all those institutions are concerned about imposing their agenda on you. You better be concerned about it. So no state has done more to beat the left at the institutional level than we have in the state of Florida. We have beat them in the schools. We're beating them in the universities. We have beat them in things like corporate activism in corporate America. And people know when their freedoms are threatened by the left, when the left is attempting to impose its pathologies on them, that the state of Florida will stand up and we will fight back on their behalf. And that's exactly what we've done.